Hey everybody, Matt Cribbs here, and it's Wednesday, and I'm driving, so it must be another Wednesday morning drive. Got my camera a little screwed up today, but I'm moving, so can't really fix that. But welcome. Hope everyone is doing really well. I am doing well. I'm still a little busy, and it's hitting me. I'm a little tired, a little loopy, but that's the way it goes. You got to get things done. Gotta do what you gotta do. So that's the way it goes. Again, we have another one of these out before a episode of either Vanilla or Feed the Beast, but sorry about that. Things happen, and it's for good reason. There's good stuff coming, so don't worry about that. The series are alive and well, and I am ripping through stuff, just not ripping through getting it up. But one of the reasons for that, there is a new Ryotcraft.com website. Did a little redesign on it. I think the old one was getting kind of dated, so we put a new one up. I worked on that, got it all going, and it is live on www.ryotcraft.com. Go check it out. Talks about who we are, gets you the latest stuff everyone in the network is doing, and check it out. Give me feedback, let me know. Worked hard on it. But anyway, so that's that. Today, there's been something. Had read the comments. I will talk a little bit about Minecraft source code and some of the things, actually the whole phenomenon of it and how it came up. I've talked about it to other people before, but not publicly. But anyway, that's not today. Today I want to talk about something that's been bothering me, both in the general world overall and in my work life, in kind of life we all live. And that's the fact that, well, I'm a geek. There's no doubt about it. I think the fact that I make YouTube videos about video games pretty much qualifies me as a person with a very loud truck passing me by. But also pretty much qualifies me as a geek. No doubt about it. I always have been my whole life, into D&D, Doctor Who, Star Trek, Star Wars, whatever you want to call it. I like those geeky pursuits. But in high school, and before that, I wasn't just a geek. I was a nerd. I was, in my AP classes, I was, pulled good grades, maybe not as good. Excellent grades. Study hard, kids. Everyone. I got okay grades. I wasn't the best student, but I did well. And I've always loved to learn. I've always loved to figure out how things work and read and experiment and think about, how find out. If I have a question, go find it out. And if I have something, I took apart my Transformers to figure out how they went together and how they worked. And this intellectual curiosity has always been a part of my life. And I've always, wanted to know and learn more. I believe that's, a large part of who we are as human beings. We're not the fastest animals out there. We're not the strongest, but, we're certainly in the top 3 of the smartest. And I'll let you guys debate who the other 2 might be. Hint, I don't actually have any other animals in mind. I just kind of said that. Anyway, our brains are what make us human. They're what make us who they are. And yet, it was a source of, being made fun of in high school. And, it's always been there, the cliques with the jocks and the popular kids and the nerds. And it was always, the geeky, nerdy, dorky, social outcasts who were the smart ones. It's not cool to be smart. And that sucked. That was horrible. Because it's, well, we'll get to because why. But it's a part of our culture. And it doesn't go away, and that's one thing that has really been weighing on my mind lately. This idea that the smart people, the intelligent people, and even worse than that, because intelligence and that is it's a gift. It's like being tall or something like that. We do our best with what we have. But learning, intellectual curiosity, any curiosity, thinking about things is something that is looked down on. Using your brain is looked down on in our culture, and it shows up in a lot of ways in our full society, and not just the standard jocks making fun of nerds and stealing their lunch money or whatever in high school and all that. It's all throughout. It's in the presidential candidates, sending populist messages and being from the common man and against those eggheads. You hear that all the time, or looking down on scientific studies as that doesn't. Stephen Colbert made a great parody of it with his truthiness argument. Like, I don't believe in what the people who actually know these things say. I know something else is true deep in my heart. And so we ignore what our society, the things we learn as a species, because it doesn't either fit the agendas or it doesn't that, and we do it by discounting the learning, discounting the intelligence, discounting the intellectuals that have discovered these things. And it exists even in a different form in the world. It's happened to me several times throughout my career. I work, of course, in computers, and one of the things you hear from people quite frequently is, "Oh, I don't understand computers." And they usually have with it this like, "Oh, isn't that funny? And why should I understand computers?" Why should you? Because you need them to do your job. It's like if someone comes in and they were 5 hours late for work, and they're like, "Oh, I couldn't figure out how to start my car. Oh, yeah, I just don't understand cars." Like, no, that would not be okay. And yet it is okay for people to be like, "I don't understand computers." Well, no, wrong. It's not okay. Computers run our society. They run our world, our life. Unless you're in a purely physical job, there's and there's a lot of those, and there's nothing wrong with purely physical jobs. I'm not saying that at all. But any office job in particular, you're gonna have a computer system that you interact with that you need to do your job. And even if you don't, you communicate via Facebook, you communicate via email, you communicate via whatever, and it's only getting more and more. Computers and the internet and our society is here to stay, and you either figure it out and embrace it, or you're not going to be successful. You're going to be hampering yourself for success in society. And what bothers me is that kind of self-handicapping is almost encouraged in our society. People don't want to learn about new technologies. They don't want to learn about how things really work. And the car example I used earlier, people don't understand how internal combustion engines work, how why most people would know you have to change your oil, but if you really talk about why, slightly more people would understand, because friction and parts rubbing against each other on that. But I would bet that I would be a little bit dismayed at the number of people that don't understand why you have to do that, and frankly don't care. And that attitude bothers me a lot, because if you don't understand the whys behind things, if you don't understand how the tools you're working with every day work, you're just not, I don't even know what to say. Like, you're voluntarily choosing to be worse at what you do. And that's attitude boggles my mind. And it's not something that I think anyone is consciously individually saying, but that's the effect. problem is it's part of our culture. It's part of, from, Revenge of the Nerds, from early on, from everything we learn, and the entire way we treat certain pursuits, the way Big Bang Theory on TV. Personally, funny show. Still, not really helping this kind of, smart people are funny. Like, it's not really helping the fact that we need to become smarter as a society, and we need to become more embracing of, the nerd, the geek, the intellectual pursuits, the learning for learning's sake, and the pursuits of the mind as well as the body. The world is just becoming more and more that way as our society becomes more information centric and less purely physical. That's what I'm saying. And the thing is, I was reading about this phenomenon and earlier, because I knew I was going to talk about this, so I was kind of reading about, it's always wondered me, it's always wondered me. I'll make up words, but I wonder, why does this exist? Where did it come from? And it's actually not new at all, especially here in America, which is where I live and where I kind of focused on the history from. But and it goes a lot back to the kind of the founding of the country and the rejection of the British and European class system and the nobility, and where those, the nobles had the time to do and spend on these pursuits, whereas the common man, the laborer, didn't necessarily. And, I'm sure you can find ties in history with education being restricted to an upper class, but, I think a lot of that way our country came from was founded on that kind of the return to the purity, for lack of a better term, but a return to the simpler pursuits, the more, ones that don't frankly require a lot of advancement or thinking or pushing on things. And it's been a part of our public discourse ever since. There's I was reading about examples of campaigns that had been run in the past where, the champion of the political campaigns, the champions of the common man are playing a lot and pandering to that, that anti-intellectual kind of boiling subculture, or not subculture, but subconscious value system that exists in our society. And O. Henry was a good example, a story where, an intellectual throws off and becomes better by rejecting the intellectual side and becoming more pure. So this is not a new thing. This is something that has existed in our culture for a long, long time. And so it's not something that's going to be easy to change. And it's not something that, it's not something that's going to be popular to change, because people don't like change. People don't like to have their beliefs questioned, especially when it's a belief that's maybe not even consciously held, when it's just kind of part of the background noise of a culture. But I do think that, we need to try and change that about ourselves and try and, elevate the intellectual. I guess everyone should enter the ivory tower, as opposed to, tearing down or ignoring the people. If the whole, the scholars in their ivory tower who are not aware and out of touch with reality. But I think we should open up the ivory tower. I don't know a good metaphor for that, but we should embrace nerdiness as a part of our culture, because guess what, folks? that's the way the world's going, and it's the nerds are the ones who are going to be the ones in power. So we need more role models. We need more heroes. We need more stories about, you know, the nerd. And I hate using that word, but it's because it is that, you know, stereotype, that negative stereotype. But it's easier to say. So, but we need to start making this, you know, an accepted thing and part of it, or frankly, I think we're going to be, people who don't accept that are going to be left behind as the world becomes more and more further on in whatever you want to call it, the information revolution, which I still think we're still in the early phases of. But anyway, that's kind of a little bit of a rant for me this morning. It's something I care about, and it's something that, you know, affects my life, and I think probably most of our lives. If you're watching this video, the fact that you have access to YouTube, and that you are consuming this content, if you found me at all, you're probably, you know, either play a game, or you're part of my social circle, or something did, like, those of you I'm talking to are probably equally affected by this phenomenon and can see it and change it more than those who aren't watching this video. So that's why I say us. But I'm inclusive to everyone. So start thinking about it. That car did not really fit in that gap that he just went for. But anyway, until the next time, and once I stop driving here, which I get to a red light coming up, hope you have a good one. Thank you so much for all the support. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, continue the discussion down in the comments. I know I've been a little bad about responding, but yeah, if you have anything to say, I'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye.